In this video, I will show you some effective traps that you can use as black to outsmart your opponents. So let's get started. So our first trap is in the Ruin Opus. After white goes bishop to b5, you go a6. Bishop moves back. Now you go d6, defending this pawn. And here, white goes d4, trying to threaten the knight. But here you play b5, attacking the bishop. Bishop moves back, and then you will capture this pawn with your knight. White takes, you recapture, and then queen takes. And here you play c5, attacking the queen. White goes queen to d5, threatening a checkmate and attacking the rook. But here you will play bishop to e6, which defends the rook and attacks the queen. White tries queen to c6 check, but then you will block with the bishop. And when white tries to go queen to d5, you will play c4 and this bishop is trapped. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. This is the Italian opening. And here you play knight to d4. This is the black bunch hitting gambit. White takes, and then here you go queen to g5. But here, instead of capturing on f7, white goes knight to g4, blocking the queen, preventing you from capturing the g2 pawn. And this is what my opponent also played in one of my games. But here, you can play d5, attacking the knight and attacking the bishop at the same time. And after bishop takes, you can capture the knight and you're up a piece and completely winning in just 6 moves. Let's move on to our next trap. After d4, knight f6, c4, you go with the Budapest gambit e5. White takes, and then you go knight to g4, attacking this pawn. White goes knight f3, defending this pawn. And here, you will play d6, offering him another pawn. White takes, and then you recapture with the bishop. And here, the most common move is s3, kicking your knight. But you will shock your opponent with knight takes f2. Here you have to take, otherwise he loses material. So king takes, and then you will play bishop to g3. And after king takes, you will capture his queen and you are completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. This trap is in the Sicilian defense. And white goes with d4. This is the Smith-Morra gambit. You take, and then white offers another pawn. You take this as well, and then white takes with the knight. Here you go e6. White goes knight f3. You go bishop to b4, pinning this knight. White goes bishop to c4. And here you go queen to c7, attacking this bishop. White goes queen to e2, defending the bishop. And then here, you play this tricky move b5. White takes, and then you will take this knight. White recaptures, and then queen takes c3, wins the rook. After queen blocks, you can take his rook, and you are ahead in material. Let's move on to our next trap. This trap is in the Ruin Opus, and here you go knight to f6, hitting this pawn. White defends with d3, and here you play this tricky move knight to e7, offering the e5 pawn. White takes, and then you go c6. And here, white tries to go knight to c4, trying to smother checkmate you. But you go d6. And since this bishop is under attack, bishop moves back, and you play b5, forking the bishop and knight, and you are completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. This trap is my favorite one, and this is in the Queen's Gambit declined. After knight c3, knight f6, white goes bishop g5, pinning this knight to the queen. And here, you go with this tricky move knight bd7, and here white exchanges this pawn, and after that he takes on d5, taking advantage of the fact that your knight is pinned to the queen. But here you can capture his knight, sacrificing your queen, and after white takes, you can play bishop to b4 check. Queen d2 is the only move, and then you can take his queen, and after king takes, you can take his bishop, and you are up a piece and completely winning. This trap deserves a like, isn't it? Now let's move on to our next trap. This trap is in the England gambit. After white takes, you play bishop to c5. Knight f3 is a natural move, and then here you play d6, offering him another pawn. White takes, and then you are going to offer your knight. And here, most of your opponents will think you made a mistake and capture this knight, but this loses to bishop takes f2. Now the king have no choice but to take, and then you just win the queen in 6 moves. Let's move on to our last trap. This trap is in the London system. After bishop f4, you go with this cunning move h5, and here, if your opponent played the natural move e3, then he is completely losing because of the brilliant move e5. Here, white have two choices. If bishop takes e5, then you can play f6, bishop moves back, g5, bishop moves, and then h4 traps the bishop. And even if here he plays d takes e5, then you can play g5, bishop moves, and then h4 traps the bishop. Well, I guess you enjoyed these traps, and if you don't want to miss more videos like these, then don't forget to subscribe and check out this left playlist for more amazing traps like these, and this right playlist for chess games played by grandmasters.